Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me to my side right here, another good colleague, buddy, friend. It's one of the Zachs we have hanging around here, or you may see around social media. There's a whole bunch of Zachs in the Steeler Nation, and one of them is Zach Celadonia. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, Joe. Yeah, one of many Zachs in the Steeler Nation. I think the Steelers fan base has more Zachs than any other fan base. Might just be because it's my name and it sticks out to me and I notice it all the time, or it's a true thing. But we'll roll with it. And thanks for having me back on, man. We're making this a regular thing.
Yeah, we are. He's got the hair going first thing on a Monday morning. Got the chains. Got the True Chains shirt as well. We've got a whole lot of nonsense to talk about today because we got a whole list. It's like a potpourri of topics from the weekend. We've got some interviews from Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin and all kinds of other things that we didn't maybe touch on. And you know what? I have to point out my t-shirt game right here. It's WrestleMania week, man. And since there's all kind of nonsense going on, I thought the Steve Austin what shirt would be appropriate. And you might hear me go, what? What? Somewhere in the middle of it or what? What? Either way. Yeah, man. I mean, geez, you were saying you were putting on the cup of or the pot of coffee. I'm not sure what you do. I've got one of the fancy Keurigs here, but it's good to have an hombre. This is a shot at Brian, by the way, that likes coffee. He calls this brown sludge, and I can't live without the coffee. Obviously, the Steelers mug. It's amazing though, like how like all of us got together and we're all like almost wired the same way. Like, and I'm sure there's other folks that are out there listening, watching, and they see like our setups here and we're grabbing coffee mugs and, you open your wardrobe, which Tina Rivers, by the way, made fun of me for. I sent a picture of something to her, like a shirt I got, but the rest of my closet was showing. You could see all the black and gold all the way down like the one rack. It looked like it was all color coordinated, but it's just amazing how we have all this stuff. It's just like it comes natural, you know what I mean? The fandom. So
makes it easy to buy gifts for us. Every single holiday, birthday, Christmas, whatever reason I may be getting a gift, you bet your bottom dollar someone's going to get me something Steelers. And that's not a bad thing because it's a guarantee that I'm going to use it or appreciate it or something. So easy, we're easy people to buy gifts for, being such big Steelers fans.
Was it you and I, we were talking maybe off the air about even like the coasters? Did you have yeah, I got like the jersey coaster. It's like whatever people get you. Oh, that's a nice one. They got the spatula. They try and call them like turners. I guess like for the grill, maybe you call it something different. But they got the grill one like that.
Those, yeah, I need to get one of those. They say like Steelers, or they have the emblem like right in the middle of them.
Yeah, I guess you could like flame broil it right into your burger, like brand it. But no, it's good, man. Yeah, I got to ask you one other thing, and everybody's gonna be like, "These guys won't talk about football." Well, what do you think we're gonna talk about right now? Everybody's running around in shorts, or there's lots of nonsense. So we're gonna add to it. Brian doesn't like toast either. Remember, he was the host who doesn't like toast. Are you a breakfast guy at all too? Because you got the coffee. You're halfway there.
Yeah. I do like toast. No offense to Brian, but what's funny is I do that intermittent fasting craze that has like taken the world by storm. I've kind of been doing that for a while now, the better part of 3 or 4 years almost. So I really don't eat breakfast or lunch unless it is Sunday. It's like my do whatever day, or if it's a holiday. I'm not going to like stick by that diet on a holiday and ruin like someone's celebration, But I do the fasting thing, so I really don't usually eat till dinner time. But if someone wants to go to brunch with me, or if we got some good cooking going on at home, I'm definitely going to have toast and I'll have breakfast for sure.
Oh man, I'm a big breakfast guy. I get what you're saying though. Like I'm still a protein shake in the morning guy. Maybe I have some toast or something light, but on the weekends, I hit it pretty hard. Even this weekend, out in my neck of the woods, you got a Big Boy and they have the breakfast bar, but when I'm out in like Pittsburgh, man, I'm down in the Strip District for sure, even if I got to wait in line for some of the breakfast. Pam's Diner is one of my favorites as well, to throw a shout out there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Pamela's is great, but going down to the strip sometimes it's a lot easier to go to maybe one of the other locations because you're out there too long. Especially what's going on with this weather. I was wearing shorts like a week ago, and now all of a sudden it's like freezing cold. Like, so
Dude, I hate it. I'm one of the biggest complainers you're gonna meet when it comes to the cold weather and the winter and the snow. I get told all the time I live in the wrong area. Like, it's great being a Steeler fan and being able to represent Pittsburgh, but I hate the weather that we have here so much. On days where it's like smoldering hot in the summertime and people are complaining, I couldn't be happier. I love that kind of weather. Like, the hotter, the better.
smoldering hot's like 85.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh. Actually, it got a lot nicer in Pittsburgh than it would in Northeast Ohio. But then again, the closer you get to Lake Erie, the more miserable everybody and everything is. So especially Cleveland. So anyways, we do have some football stuff to talk about maybe. We had somebody to talk about. What were you calling him? Were you calling him? You had the wrong name. Was it Gunner? It's Gunner, right? You got me thinking the wrong way. Gunner Oshevsky.
Dude, Gunner. I keep calling him Hunter because like Gunner and Hunter like go together, and I had a buddy named Hunter, so like that's just in my head. They both end with ER, so it's an easy mistake. But I'm trying to correct it because I anticipate me cheering Gunner along quite a bit this season. So I want to make sure I'm giving him his respects and calling him by the right first name.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of panic. I think we may have discussed this a little bit on last time when you and I were together about the Steelers losing 3 wide receivers. And I'm kind of like, well, they kind of lost like one wide receiver that wasn't always around, Juju. I mean, he was hurt last year. And people are really some of them take it to offense. They look at his contract. His contract is like really weak, though. He'll make the incentives, some of them. Like, if he gets the Pro Bowl, I think he gets another $500,000. What? I had it in the back rooms and like some of the breakdown. But I mean, as long as he stays healthy and he's on the field, he'll probably make an extra $2.5 million on top of whatever his base was around 3. Yeah. I think some of it is the availability thing or just moving on. Maybe he just wanted to move on. And I spoke with Derek Cockridge, the NFL agent from Steinberg, just on the last show. So, I mean, he points out some of that stuff. It's just an odd choice. I think more or less Juju wants to play with somebody like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you put yourself in the same shoes as him. It's like, do you feel comfortable about the Steelers quarterback situation if you're on the team and you're a free agent? You know, you're like, eh. And then the incentives are probably there because the Chiefs don't have the cap space. Didn't have the cap space if they were going to sign Hill. Now they might have a little bit more freed up there. What a crazy trade that was, by the way.
Dude, I'm still in disbelief at how fast it went. My dad didn't even know. Like my dad's pretty like up to speed on NFL news. I try to keep everyone close in my life up to speed as much as I am. You know, I'll send them tweets all day and stuff like that. Sometimes to the point of annoying them. But yesterday I went to go visit my mom and dad, and I brought up Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins, and he was like, "Wait, that went through?" I was like, yeah, dude, like it went through. I was sitting at my other job and I saw that he was unhappy, and it was like not even an hour later that the trade to Miami was through.
Yeah.
I've never seen something so fast. I didn't know he was unhappy or not. All that was news to me. And I'm surprised. I know he's making a lot of money, but I'm surprised the Chiefs just let it happen like that so fast, you know?
Well, I mean, they got a ton of draft. It was like, thanks for helping them, Miami. You know what I mean? I know you're trying to improve your own team, but it's kind of like, why? It's the same thing as like talking about any team that's going to trade for Baker Mayfield. Number one, the Browns are not going to trade him to the Steelers within their own division. I doubt it, unless they totally think he's that much of a bum that he would, like, I don't know, sabotage the Steelers, so to speak. But on the other side of that, it's like, why would the Steelers want to help the Browns cap situation when they know if the guy's unhappy and not going to play, he's just going to get released? Let him eat that $18 million that's guaranteed and screw their cap. That's how many players could the Steelers have signed the way things have been working in this free agency? That's like at least 2 guys, maybe 3 guys, depending on the way things have been structured. So, but that one wide receiver, Juju, and you know, I love Juju. He's definitely had all the Pittsburgh vibes. Young guy, physical guy. He was hurt a little more frequently in 2019. That's the last time he had a 100-yard receiving game. And he was hurt quite a bit last season. And they didn't think he would be back. For whatever reason, they just the parties are moving on from that. Who knows? Could come back next year. You never know. Maybe he
Yeah,
knows the grass isn't greener. It's a 1-year deal, but.
Yeah.
And he had interest in Kansas City the year before, but now maybe he got wind of that Tyreek Hill thing and thought maybe he could be the guy. But geez, you're a wide receiver and you see that contract, you're just like, whoa. That's what Tyreek Hill did. He saw Christian Kirk's ridiculous contract with the Jaguars and he had to tweet with the eyeballs. That's all he sent out. And you're always trying to read into things like that. You missed that one. Totally off. The eyeballs didn't do it for you, but.
Yeah, dude. Mecole Hardman, they said, alluded to it as well. Like, he tweeted something really cryptic about a week before, how he was just going to like sit back and watch or something like that. So yeah, there were some people, I think, close to the situation that knew it was coming, and it's still a shock to the mainstream. Absolutely. And Juju, I really think that there's a lot of, like you already said this, I'm just agreeing with you that there's a lot of reasons that he left. There's a bunch of reasons you could speculate on. Whereas there's a good portion of the fan base like yourself and me who appreciate and love Juju and cheered him on, and we're always supportive of him. He did deal with a lot of hate and a lot of people telling him to change how he was and a lot of people telling him how to live. And I know you're going to get that in most passionate NFL cities, but there are certain Steeler fans that they have their ways of getting to you, you know, and his mom made it seem like there were some personal things about it, more than just him wanting a new opportunity. She said that he wanted to stay and we weren't as interested. And for as little of the money that he got, it's a really strange scenario that we're trying to talk about and make sense of, because he did have an issue or two with injuries that were starting to stack up. You're wondering, was that on the Steelers' mind? Did they not want to pay him because of that? But then you look at the money he made and you're thinking, was he really not worth that? So I kind of feel like I'm talking but when it comes to Juju and the contract situation, because it's really hard to figure out what exactly went wrong and why they wouldn't offer him money. And someone's not telling the truth in this. Don't know who, you know, but you're right. I think it isn't. If there's anybody who could come back to the Steelers, I could see it being Juju, because it is a thing the Steelers like to do. They love their reunions.
Yeah, that was like unheard of. Once somebody leaves like a franchise, that was like unheard of years ago. And then about a decade or so ago, there was like a floodgate of guys who left and came back. I mean, you had what? Will Gay, Bryant McFadden, Antoine Randall, Burris had that short stint. I was there too, and I think he caught that touchdown. And did he get hurt on it too? Maybe.
Dude, Plexico, the funniest stat line of all time, when he came back in like 2012 or whenever that was, he had 3 catches on the year for 12 yards and a touchdown. I believe that's exactly what it was. And his touchdown was like a 10-yard slant. It was in the red zone, and Ben just put it right on his chest. And I was that time of year, like 2012, 2013, 2014, that time of my life, I was like transitioning between high school and college and like trying to figure out if I wanted to do college. So I didn't have my finger on the pulse of the Steelers as much as I do now. And looking back, I remember being like excited that Plexico came back. And then I never like followed up with how the rest of his year went.
I think he was like 35 years old too, but they were just so desperate just to put him out there and catch some red zone targets. Kind of reminds you of like maybe Randy Moss and being out in like San Francisco or whatever. Older guy, but it's like, geez, like even the old veteran guy, he knows he could take like this one step and he's got like the move, and you're not going to defend it because he's been doing it. Yeah, he's been doing it for like 15 years. So, like, what are you going to do? Is try and stop me? But he might not be able to burn someone going downfield, playing a whole drive or anything like that. Got to go hit the oxygen on the sideline or something. But
it's cliche. Anytime a guy in the red zone boxes a guy out and catches a high ball, they're like, "Oh, there's that basketball background." Like, so Plexico Burris is, when he was here his last year, I guess that's what he could offer us. But yeah, the reunion thing, Juju could come back. He could. I don't want to close the door on that. I'm sure there's some people rolling their eyes at that because clearly I'm playing favorites with how I see that. But I could see him coming back, and if not, you know, we're both on to greener pastures. You know, Juju, I hope he has success, and I hope the Steelers have success. I have no ill feelings towards 19.
I told you this was going to be a what show, and one of the ones I know you saw this too. Since we're still on the wide receivers, we'll get back to how Gunner fits into all this eventually. Antonio Brown lobbying to go play for the Browns. Did you see that? Oh, jeez, man.
He's lobbying to play for anybody right now.
That's true. Well, he figures if they take Watson, his problems aren't even close to that, so he might have a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, James Washington, everybody had a big love affair with him, and it's weird because I compared to his statistics over the last couple of seasons to Ryan Switzer, who everyone just hated, and all Switzer really was supposed to be was a little slot guy that gets the ball here and there. We talked about Washington in depth the last time you were talking about how everything's a combat catch, and people remember that. They're like, oh yeah, look how he fights for the ball, but it's like, yeah, but every single target is fighting for the ball, and that's the problem. And then, of course, Ray McLeod, who I said was Antonio McLeod. So you upgraded this position from Ray to Gunner, or so you hope. That's the set of circumstances here. But Gunner, an All-Pro returner, and by all means, he should have been last year maybe too. He put up some really great numbers last season as well. So he's probably more excited to be anywhere near the Steelers stuff than both of us combined. That guy is hyper on social media, so that's fun to have him. And I know you were wanting to say something too about maybe I'll throw two names in here. You mentioned Anthony Miller, but I'm also mentioning Steve Sims, who they also picked up. Both guys were on practice squad, and I don't know if Sims got called up for a game or not, but we know Miller did. He at least had a catch, a crazy one too, if I recall. I'm just, where do these guys fit in? Because they are still veterans. They kind of fit that. Let's say they go out and get Jericho Cotchery, Justin Hunter. So what we're asking a lot of today is are they done with free agency? Things are starting to cool. We're starting to hear about the NFL draft. Where can they still add? And a lot of people are like, oh, go get Jarvis Landry. Well, I don't know that Jarvis Landry wants to be a guy that plays 40% of the game at this stage in his career and only make $6 million or something, or whatever they're going to throw at him. I think he still wants to go somewhere and be the guy, and I think he still could.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Steelers are in that position. They still got some money, but I just don't think they're in that position with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. They're not in the most awful situation where they got to go out and find a wide receiver 3 or maybe a wide receiver 4, depending on how they view the other guys.
Yeah. No, they're in a position where they can add to the room for sure. But like you said, and we've touched on before, it isn't as hit the red button and panic as, some people want to take it and make it seem as such. Gunner, I think, is a great return man. Like you said, he hasn't done much on offense for the Patriots in his short career. In the preseason, from what I have seen, he's got good hands and he knows what he's doing. He can run good routes and he's fast. But I think the safe bet is to assume that he's going to be primarily a special teams guy for the Steelers. He could surpass my expectations, absolutely. It happens all the time, and more power to him if he can. But I think he'll primarily be our returner and an upgrade from Ray for sure. I was a fan of Ray's, but he never took one all the way back to the house, and Gunner has, and that isn't the end all be all, but he has proven that he can go the distance with it, take it all the way back, read his blocks, and he knows what he's doing. Sure-handed punt returner, and those things can't be understated, their importance on a football team. You take it for granted until you don't have someone who can do it well. I think he'll be better than Switzer for sure. And
I had a lot of high hopes for him when that trade happened. I was like, "Ooh, yeah, all right." And a lot of that was facilitated because Eli Rogers got tagged, I think, with the PEDs also. I think that went hand in hand. There was another guy I really liked too, but again, it just shows you how short an NFL career is and how quickly things move, especially where there's just a wide amount of skill position player, wide receivers. I hate to use the word dime a dozen because it makes it seem like we shouldn't value these players, but that's exactly what ends up happening. It's not like the quarterback position where everyone's going to trip over each other to make one of these players a first-round draft pick more than likely coming up, and we'll talk about that. But Gunner, his punt return yards, his all-pro season, all-pro, by the way. That means he was selected as the best returner in the NFL in 2020. 346 yards. He had the one he took to the house. So his return yardage was up to 17.3, and I'm sure taking it to the house inflated that a little bit. But his kick returns over the last 2 seasons have been pretty consistent. Both times, 18 returns, 418 and 416. So he's getting about 23.1 to 2, 23 yards on a return. So if he's getting this at the end zone, at least we're getting back to the 25, which Ray has been struggling to get to like the 20.
Yeah, it sounds like he's a bit over average is Gunner, and
yeah.
I like what he brings. He earned his way to a secure spot with the Patriots. He played corner in college. I read that. That's pretty funny. That's classic Patriots to get somebody in that doesn't play receiver at all, but they're like, yeah, let's put this guy on offense.
Classic Patriots is having somebody named Olszewski on their roster, and then he like balls out.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I remember Gronkowski, Olszewski.
when he was newer, like a rookie, I vaguely remember Patriots fans being like, "Oh, here's our next Edelman. He's a guy," and he never really reached that level. But the fans thought the same thing in New England. They thought they had just found their next, Wes Welker, Edelman, fill in the blank here of small white dude. They thought that he was the next guy. And not to sell him short because he worked his way to an all-pro, but he didn't meet that level of excitement. But he's got better size than those guys. I was surprised to see when I was trying to do some quick research for the show today that he's actually 6 foot, 190. He's not a typical tiny guy. So there's hope for him yet to be filtered into the offense, especially in the position that the Steelers wide receiver room is right now. Anthony Miller raises a interesting question, a couple questions actually, because I did like Anthony Miller coming out of Memphis. I heard he reminds me of Antonio Brown a little bit. Like, people love throwing around the mainstream big names whenever they can. And I mean, we saw it with Claypool and Megatron, but people thought Anthony Miller had a little bit of Antonio Brown in his game. So he was always on my radar in a sense. And when the Bears took him, I tried to follow along and see how he did. And to his credit, his first couple years there were impressive. I'll give him that, because I didn't think that he was going to re-sign with the team after being on the practice squad all year and only getting the one game worth of action. But he re-signed for a reason. So I think he believes, whether it's through the Steelers telling him this or through his own confidence, that he thinks he has a chance to stick with the Steelers and contribute and play. And of the, I hate calling them no names, but of the guys in the room who aren't Claypool and Deontay, Miller probably is the lead horse as far as a guy who can make an impact and maybe fill that 3 or 4 role. In 2018 and 2019, I believe, he had impressive seasons those years. And both of those years, he was with Mitch. Mitch was his quarterback for those 2 years, 2018 being the obviously his Pro Bowl year, Trubisky. And Miller scored 7 touchdowns that year. So him and Trubisky they have a good little bit of chemistry between the two of them. I don't know if they're going to be able to recapture that magic here in Pittsburgh, but, sometimes we as fans think that the people in the Steelers and the NFL offices and people making these calls, there's these like intense, really well thought out equations and like, oh, how are they going to fit? Sometimes it's just they're humans like you and I, and they could be thinking, well, Anthony Miller was good with Mitch, maybe he'll be good here. It could be that simple, that they wanted to keep Miller here after Mitch became the target. I know Miller was signed before Mitch was signed, but that could all be related. And he had 1 catch last year. It was for like 2 yards. Ben threw him a short, shallow cross, but he caught it like this with like one hand. So it was pretty cool to see on the field, but he got tackled immediately. So it's tough to give him a really fair assessment. I didn't see, except for the fact that I said I'm hopeful for what he can be. We didn't see any of Sims, who's strictly a practice squad guy, but he did show flashes in Washington of being a capable receiver. I remember when he was a little younger, a couple of years ago, seeing him stick out a little bit. And, is Cody White still around? I'm not sure if he's still around, but
that's a great question. And that's someone that they were really, really developing too. I'll find your answer here in a second, but, let's see. Cody is still there. Yes, the good old number 15.
So they've got 3 dudes right there with Miller, Sims, and Cody White that they like to an extent. Miller's got the most proven pedigree and success. But all three of them, I think, will be given a fair shot to at least stick. Two of them probably will. I couldn't see them just sticking with Claypool and Deontay, and that's it.
I'm giving you this look. You're missing Uncle Rico here. Rico Bussey.
Bussey,
yeah, the camp phenom. And he didn't hear a whole lot. He was on the practice squad, but then he was like, practice squad has like an injured reserve to it too. And that's somebody that they kept around. So, you never know. You find some of these guys that are undrafted. He's in a different category as is Cody White. 6'2", 190. Cody White, 6'3", 215. So Cody's a little bit bigger of a boy there. When you're talking about Sims, 5'10", 176, and Miller, 5'11", 199. Miller, of course, pedigree of being selected second round. He was like a 50th overall pick. So he was very highly thought of coming out of the draft in 2018. The weakest part of his game has been like inconsistency. So if people still, I see it all the time, they complain about Deontay Johnson dropping the ball, and he didn't have that many drops last year. It's just the recency bias of it happening late in the year in a big spot when it happens. Miller is like the strangest thing because he has games where he's like glue, like 75, 80% catch percentage. Then he has like a 20%. And that's what he was with the Houston Texans last year initially before he came to the Steelers. Yeah. And that's not something that you could really hang your hat on here with. He caught 4 passes, 4 of 6 for 20 yards and a TD. And then 1 of 5, they got walloped 40-0 by the Buffalo Bills. And I was going to say some of the other games too, where, even his rookie season, he has a game where he catches 3 of 7, 2 of 7 targets. Like these are like Sammy Coates type numbers, to some degree. But then he's got like 5 of 6 or 4 or 5 with maybe a touchdown. It's kind of all over the board, and it just makes you wonder. Like, okay, 5 of 9, for example, and it's a game where the Bears lose. So is it? Who's 6 of 11? You got some of these outlying games where he's not made. I don't know if it's the passes are sailing over his head from whoever's throwing him the ball, which you already mentioned who that was, or that's sometimes what we talk about, whether it's the receiver or the quarterback. Not to be too funny, but maybe there's something there. Maybe Matt Nagy really is a hot dumpster fire of coaching and screwed up some things, and maybe Matt Canada isn't the same guy, or maybe he is. We're going to find out how that works out. So,
dude, that's what I'm being like. I already was a little more optimistic towards the Mitch signing and him being the guy. I've been swayed even more in that direction through the outpouring, I would say, because you got what's his name, the guy who does ESPN, Greeny, is that Mike Greenberg?
Yeah,
he. And Colin Coward and like a lot of these guys that have their own show, they really think that people are getting their laughs in and their jollies about the Steelers signing Mitch Trubisky. A lot of them think it's a good move, and they really think that whatever happened between him and Nagy, that really rocked his world, like mentally. And he wasn't given a fair shot after Nagy decided he was done with him. And hearing all of that has really helped me. I'm used to tuning out the mainstream guys and having my own opinion, but the outpour from these outlets being like, no, this is a good move for the Steelers, and here's why, has really helped me feel even better about it. I'm still tempering myself and preparing myself for average quarterback play, but they make a lot of good points. Some of the same points that you and I have already made. The year off flow is good. He's got good athleticism. His 2 years of success. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about it, but tempered because, he is Mitch Trubisky, and there is a reason why he fell out of favor, and there's a reason why he was a backup last year. So it's all like
that's the toughest part with me. I told you I had a couple of guys I could sympathize with. And I said of the free agents, I said when I went through Trubisky, this reminds me of when I went in and I'm like, nah, I'm not feeling it with this guy, and I really dig into it, and I'm like, man, I'm finding it hard to find holes in his game, and just hate on him for hating on him, and it kind of turned me around, kind of like the first round running back thing last year. I turned around on, and also James Harrison is a Hall of Famer, which is something where a lot of people are nah, because his numbers and everything like this. But you look at all of the accolades and stuff he has, and also being one of the franchise greats, the all-time leading sack leader. I find more difficulty in shooting holes in those theories sometimes. It just reminds me of that same thing. So yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I kind of wish Rudolph will get. We'll see. He'll get a shot. I mean, it's not like, again, it's not like I'm expecting him to be the next Ben. But when you're talking about the guy that was the top quarterback taken in the class, and he fell out of grace, is he really just is he a bust, or was he in a bad situation? And I guess we're going to find out. And there are certainly guys that I felt like I didn't want anything to do with Sam Darnold. I didn't want anything to do with Cam Newton. And it was like Trubisky, I was like, and I definitely didn't want anything to do with Mariota. And I don't think the Falcons will either, by the way. I think they will draft somebody, but
he's a stopgap. I think he's a stopgap.
Yeah. Well, no. If he starts, and let's say the rookie doesn't start right out the gate, but about 6 games in, they're going to be crying for that rookie to come in and play over him. Especially with that team.
Either they will be or Mariota himself will be, because he'll be hurt. No offense to him, but he's got injury issues.
Yeah, that's been a big issue with him too. The best ability is availability, as we say. And we talked a lot about wide receivers and quarterbacks. Let's jump to cornerbacks, because part of the what that we heard out there was Keller Witherspoon hadn't signed his contract yet. I'm like, good gracious, people, they announced this stuff, and then they got to schedule some time. You got to maybe the guy doesn't live in Pittsburgh. Maybe he lives on the West Coast. You got to fly him in. He says, "Oh, you know what? No, my daughter's got a dance recital on Thursday night. I'm only going to be able to do this on Friday." Whatever the case may be, go back and listen to the show Friday. You'll hear a lot of real life stuff. These guys are still human beings and family people. When I heard that, I'm just like, this is just clickbait to the extreme. Give this guy a chance to come out and sign a contract. And then he did. And everybody just shut up. And it's just like, come on. I didn't see it. I know we saw like Randy Gregory and J.D. McKissick go back on. They did the old Emmanuel Sanders. They went back on where they were going to go and ended up signing somewhere else. But I don't know. I just didn't see Witherspoon doing that. Maybe it's just I'm kind of just reading here. Like, I don't know him personally. I haven't had an opportunity to speak or meet with him, but I just thought that was like just a lot of nonsense there. So now we don't have to worry about that. That's all sewn up. And Kevin Colbert, they got the owners' meetings going on and all that, said, how many did they have? 23 of 24, 24 of 25 starters?
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, 24 of 25. That's the right math. 11 and whatever, and you got an extra guy here that's a starter too, so make it 26. But they're missing the one spot at safety. And immediately, what was the quote that's taken out of context here? Because I know you hate it. We're all in on the Honey Badger. We're all in on the Honey Badger, and it was like we prefer. I think the exact phrase was, we prefer guys that are entering their second contract, or he said close to it. Now, this would be like a third or fourth contract for Honey Badger, but come on. He's only got about 6 months, maybe not even a full year, over the same age as when the Steelers brought in Joe Hayden. Now, I understand Hayden only played for the Browns at that point, but there's a bunch of other guys that are near 30 that they've brought in. Who else? Tyson Alualu. There's one for sure. I'm trying to think. Well, we don't mention his name here.
I know it didn't work, but the point is they brought him. They didn't care about his age. They knew he could play, so they brought him in. Ingram, Trey Turner, Joe Hayden, like you said. There's a lot of examples of them going above that threshold and bringing that guy in. And I laughed that you asked that because, as soon as that quote hit, man, it was like clockwork, And I know that reporters and bloggers and writers, everybody has a job to do when it comes to the Steelers, if that's your field, and relaying messages and getting your point across. And I say this speaking from a place where I know what it's like, because I'll do this myself. I'll wait till I hear Colbert or Tomlin or some Steeler official say something, and if it goes along with what I want or what I am pushing for to happen, then I'll be like, see, there it is, proof. And within reason, of course, because I don't, we all have our fun. Twitter is a lot of shtick and a lot of sarcasm and a lot of inside jokes, but
no there's no trolls on Twitter.
And I try not to take advantage of that fact, because Colbert will say a lot of stuff and he's pretty truthful, but he doesn't give it all away. And my problem I have with that quote about we prefer signing younger players who are coming off of their first contract. He said that, and then you had reporters almost jamming it down our throats, being like, see, we told you, Tyrann Mathieu, not a consideration. Will you all stop asking for Tyrann Mathieu now? Hopefully this will put the Tyrann Mathieu rumors to bed. He didn't shoot him down at all. He didn't mention Tyrann by name. And if anything, Matthew fits more of the outliers that we mentioned, a player who is worth changing your principles for, a player who is worth going out and getting. He's more of that criteria than like Dante Hightower. Dante Hightower is 33 right now and is nowhere near what he used to be. The Honey Badger's 29 and is still at the top of his game. So them pointing out this quote that Colbert had, I get it. Everybody's got a job to do, like I said, but I felt a little bit like it was forced yesterday from these reporters, because it's no coincidence that the Steelers still have no strong safety. Terrell Edmonds is still out there. Honey Badger's still out there. I think it's borderline obvious that they've at least kicked the tires, or they've had conversations with Matthew's camp. And if Matthew wants more money, that's not something that I can't do anything about that. But I think it is insulting to kind of act like, oh, all you fans are so stupid for wanting Tyrann Mathieu or thinking the Steelers would go after him, because I think that is very much still in the cards. I think Matthew just wants more money than anyone's offering right now.
Money, opportunity, and there's certainly a hole there. And I speculated whether the Steelers, I say they like to double up at positions of need, and they got a big hole there, but they had a hole at running back last year. Everybody thought they were just going to roll with Benny Snell. And it's like, no, they're most certainly, like, after you see like the dust settle, this is why I don't get into mock drafts and a whole lot of other stuff until we see the free agency aftermath. And you saw that they didn't really add anyone. You know what I mean? It was still Benny Snell. Maybe they might have signed Kalen Ballage at some point. I forget when that actually happened. That could have happened post-draft also, which is what we were starting to speculate, whether Honey Badger or some of these teams are sitting and they're looking at, let's say, Kyle Hamilton. Everybody's at Notre Dame. What was there, 30 teams at Notre Dame's pro day?
Hamilton's an awesome player. He reminds me of Minka a lot, actually. He's like a Minka, Justin Simmons kind of player. Very rangy. Yeah. Good tackler, tall, good ball skills.
Makes me wonder if they could put both of them, or if that's somebody that's in play. They're going to shoot for the stars for him. But the 29 years old thing, here, I want to bring this up. This is great because you got two of the greatest safeties that played in probably the last decade with Troy Polamalu, and he plays to age, let's see here. Troy plays to 33. And he was still made a Pro Bowl in 2013, his next to last year at age 32. Ed Reed, at 34 years of age, he was still making Pro Bowls at 30, 31. Oh, geez, the whole way down, 28 to age 34. And then he had the 1 year he left Baltimore and he plays the Texans and Jets. Just sad.
I remember that.
It's going to be one of those trivia questions in like another 10 years where it's like where you see him in a different jersey and it just doesn't feel right. But then you got Rod Woodson, who changes positions. And Rod he's an all-pro at 37. It's like, if guys can play, they're going to play. And that's why I think it's nonsense. This is a position, safety, it's not corner, where we're talking Joe Hayden, 33 years of age, and we're like, well, Father Time's catching up. Like, safety, you could get away with maybe being a little older. Defensive line, offensive line, quarterbacks. And if you're a kicker.
A lot of it is met with safety. A lot of it is if you keep it up here, you can keep it out there on the field. And I agree, yes, when you start to fall, you fall fast when you're a defensive back, but safeties tend to have a longer shelf life because of these things. And you're exactly right. There is no, he's close to 30, they're not going to do it. Good teams, and the Steelers qualify as such, they will change their approaches for certain players. And there's numerous examples. We've already listed like 4 players, which just adds to my frustration and my anger yesterday seeing these reports and being like, oh, the Steelers have shut down the Tyrann Mathieu rumors. When did they do that?
No, they didn't. It's taken out of context. It's the same thing. I got to bring it up real quick. It's they ask Mike Tomlin about all these pro days that they're going to, and he's pissed that he's not going to North Carolina with Sam Howell throwing today to Ryan Switzer is out there catching balls from Sam Howell. So, but this is National Liars Month that's coming up here. April Fools. We talk about this. The Godfather Gil Brandt. If you've never listened or heard anything from Gil Brandt on any of the NFL platforms, he writes. He's a Hall of Fame executive from the Cowboys. He's been around everywhere, recruited players everywhere. He knows every little small town in America. Guy is just like a walking encyclopedia of football, and he will tell you countless stories where somebody was throwing, there's smoke and fire, and it's like, well, last year, Najee Harris, yeah, that was like, duh. It was almost like, how can this not be the pick? But we've certainly been surprised before. Ryan Shazier, T.J. Watt. I think we were surprised with Artie Burns, but I think it was still William Jackson III was probably going to be that pick, and that's why the Bengals went and grabbed him, because the Steelers may have tipped their cap a little too much. So now the Steelers are looking at all these quarterbacks, but are they really? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Maybe they do like one of them, and if that guy's there at 20, maybe that will happen. And I'm not going to be mad either way. Or the way this offseason has already worked out, I'm going to be pretty satisfied with whatever they do in the draft, because I don't think they have as many holes as some other. You give a lot of credence to some of the platforms that are out there as being reporters or whatever. Some people just have opinions, But this was the one that came out. It was the Steelers are probably drafting a quarterback, because Mike Tomlin said whatever he said about these pro days and isn't worried about making it obvious. And it's like, yeah, we all thought Derek Rivers was going to be the draft pick in 2017 too. So Chase Winovich was going to be the draft pick when they took Devin Bush. They didn't even dine Devin Bush. They dined They took Chase Winovich out to dinner for the Michigan Pro Day. So, and it's funny in that case that Winovich and Rivers both ended up as third-round picks and not first-round picks. Oddly enough, coincidental there, but they're probably. I know this is probably the one that you took, maybe, and it fits into your wheelhouse, because that's what you still want to draft a guy. I don't need 4 or 5 quarterbacks on this roster. I just kind of want to see them go with what they got right now. But then again, I don't know. I just don't see somebody. I see somebody jumping at Willis. I think he has a high ceiling, and Kenny Pickett's probably the pro-ready guy that's going to go first. So after that, I'm like, I don't know. I really don't. It's just I don't like to. I don't. This is yet another speculative thing with probably drafting a quarterback. It's like, does he really have to explain why he's at the pro days? They lost Ben Roethlisberger. He's retired. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. They've been looking at quarterbacks, though, like practically every year. They'll go all the way back. They were looking at Rudolph and Lamar Jackson, and there was all of this smoke around Lamar Jackson several years ago, too, and they didn't draft Lamar Jackson. So I don't know. I kind of, that quote, and then also, might as well throw this one in for you, too. Stephon Tuitt in his return, and both were asked. Colbert and Tomlin were both asked about this, and they said they're excited, and I guess he's been in the building, but this doesn't really confirm that he's returning for sure, and you're just like, just give us a word, please.
Yeah. It's all about how you interpret it, I guess, because the Tuitt thing seemed like good news to me at first, and then when Tomlin spoke about it recently, he seemed more vague and more unsure of things. So Tuitt, I have no idea what's going to go on with him, and I wish I could give the people more than that. I got friends and family that ask me about Tuitt all the time, and I think the Steelers want him back, and it's just too hard to really put a finger on the pulse of that situation, at least right now. Colbert and Cam Hayward seemed hopeful the last time they mentioned it, and Tomlin seems a little more like, yeah, he's on the team, but we don't know. And yeah, you know what? I'm glad you brought up the smokescreen thing, because I think that also is hard to play both sides of the fence. They have done smoke screens and they have not. The Najee Harris thing was obvious to so many people. You mentioned Devin Bush. Sometimes I blur the lines, because I myself, and I think you too, and a lot of fans knew they wanted Devin Bush, but I can't remember how obvious they made it to the fans. I know that he was all of our desired first-round pick, and we thought they liked him, but I don't know how obvious he was.
And they had to trade up.
Yeah.
They were at 20. There's no way that either of the Devons were like falling out of the maybe top 10 or 12.
Yeah, they had to trade up. And they took TJ to dinner, and Joey Porter ran his pro day. So I think that was a bit obvious with TJ Watt. What wasn't obvious was him making it to them. I didn't think he was supposed to make it that far, and when he did, they picked him in 2 seconds. But yeah, Andrew Billings, smokescreen, it does happen for sure. I think because of Ben's absence, this is the first year where it seems as serious as it does. years past, they've gone to look at quarterbacks. Like the Mason Rudolph thing, there were funny pictures of Tomlin looking at him all like a kid with his first crush. But since then, they haven't really displayed this kind of interest in a quarterback class since the Mason pictures went viral and Lamar Jackson. Because way back when people mock drafted them, Paxton Lynch and Mahomes, they weren't there watching them. That was just the media and the NFL and the TV guys being like, well, Ben's in his 30s now, so let's just mock them a quarterback. That wasn't anything the Steelers did. That was just TV people being like, yeah, here's Paxton Lynch, here's Pat Mahomes. And that never really turned my head towards the situation at all. And Mason Rudolph and onward is when I've felt like the Steelers are genuinely looking at quarterbacks, whether it's to be a backup or a starter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I agree with you, and I agree with you that smoke screens are real. It's just hard for me to to understand if this is really a smoke screen with how much they have been investing their time with these top quarterbacks.
Well, here's a what for you. What was it? CBS Sports, Chad Reuter, however you say his name, and Steeler Reuter, whatever it ends up being. Steelers moving up. What, trading up the 12 to take Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati? And I'm just like, that's a hot take, man. That's very hot take. And, you got some folks out here. All the draft Twitter people like to fight with each other, but I'm just like, that's like you not even knowing how the Steelers operate. I don't see them. That's the other thing. Kevin Colbert said that he's said multiple times, acquiring Mitch Trubisky did not cost us draft capital. And they're talking about draft capital, and they're talking about basically not trading anywhere, which also could be a lie as well. But then there's other folks that are out here putting out information. Well, they didn't send anybody, or so-and-so didn't go, Tomlin or Colbert or one of the scouts didn't go to so-and-so's pro day. So they're immediately out of the picture. And I'm like, come on, that's just ridiculous too. We have instances where that didn't happen as well, and they still end up. I think Juju is one of them. I think Juju was
a real surprise because all they did was talk to him at the combine, I believe. Juju himself was surprised they picked him. I remember hearing that.
So be careful where you get some of these takes from. And they'll all these little groups fight against each other about, man, I don't know, that's not my tight end 8 on my board. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares, man? It's
yeah, you're right. You're right. And I was almost guilty of that myself right there because I like Desmond Ridder. I do. I like his tools, and he was my quarterback 1 heading into this season before Pickett had his miracle season and before Malik Willis really exploded. I like a lot about Ridder's game, but he's the one that is supposed to be the guy who's available at 32 for them to trade back in. And I say supposed to be, not knowing anything, and guys do rise late, but I would be really shocked if Ridder went that high, because Ridder is of the Malik category where he may need a full year or half a year, but he's not as physically gifted. He's very physically gifted, but Malik has more of the wow factor. So for Ridder to go that high in front of Malik and in front of Kenny Pickett would be a shock to my system. Absolutely. And I don't think, well, I shouldn't say I don't think. I can't see them trading up for a quarterback unless one they really like makes it to a certain spot. I don't think they'll trade into the top 10 just ahead of the draft. I don't think they'll trade super high until stuff starts to happen. Like Devin Bush. They waited till right before the pick to make that trade. And you said this at the beginning of the show. If they end up not taking a quarterback at all this year, I'm chilling, dude. I'm A-okay with that because it means they use their picks this year to pick best player available to fill more holes they need. If Tuitt doesn't come back, I know we've got some nice youth and some nice depth on the D-line, but outside of Cam, there really isn't this elite force.
Yeah.
I like Loudermilk's development. Wormley came on strong last year, and Tyson is a great veteran player. But you take Tuitt out of that situation, and all of a sudden, defensive line is a pretty big need. And the market right now isn't looking good. You want to talk over 30. Calais Campbell's 36. Akeem Hicks is 32. And Trey Flowers is 29. I don't see them adding any.
Trey was getting something like $18 million a year or something too. So you pretty much just he's still got gas in the tank. if you're going to spend that money, you're spending it on Honey Badger. You're not spending that on Trey Flowers, I don't think.
Yeah, no, and there's really only there's two names of guys that are still out there that I could see the Steelers going after, but I'm not on Twitter hooting and hollering for it because I don't really feel any type of which way about these guys. But Larry Ogunjobi is still out there. He's like 28, and he's from the Bengals and the Browns, so they know him really well. They know his game. He's kind of like a D lineman that can play all around. And Deshaun Elliott from the Ravens. He was their safety who got to start this year in place of Earl Thomas and was pretty highly regarded coming out of Texas, but he fell to the late rounds because of injury concerns, and he's been injured a lot in Baltimore. So those are two names that fit the Colbert, preferences.
Yeah.
But I'm not – that's just two names for the people to maybe sit on so they have something at home now to be like, oh, well, maybe we'll keep our eye on these guys. Because there's a bunch of names still out there, and there's going to be guys who are cut as camp gets closer. There's just no one – like there's no names that are glowing on the paper to me, None of this like a beautiful mind stuff where something's speaking to me except for the Honey Badger, really. I know they have interest in DeMonte Kazi or Kazi. I feel bad not being able to say his name right, but they like him too, and he fits the Colbert under 30 second and a half contract rules. But I can't see them going out of their way to sign any of these old D linemen. Really can't. So it looks like the draft is going to be where they have to add to that area if Tuitt doesn't come back.
Yeah, DeMonte Casey, I think, is somebody like we brought him up the last time, and I said if that's somebody they sign, they're definitely drafting a safety in pretty high, top 3 picks to compete as a starter. Trey Flowers, I should note, though, probably would be playing outside linebacker, too, for that kind of money. He's not going to play there.
Edge, so like he would be.
He's 265. Yeah, he's more of an outside linebacker and a 3-4. Trying to think who else was it, but you were right. I saw that whole list of D linemen, and I'm like, well, that just brings you to like somebody like Jordan Davis if you're thinking about the future. And would that be somebody you kind of like wait in the wings, or do they feel that's kind of a wasted pick if he's even there in a position where they can draft him? Because you still don't know about Tuitt. And I love like some of the names you're pulling out as far as couldn't they still add somebody in free agency? We've been talking safety. Most of the other safeties that are out there, the safety market is okay. There's enough free agents that are out there that they could find somebody to be a starter. It's not you're not going to be stuck with what was his name? He left for the Cowboys and came back, and
Will Allen.
Will Allen, yes, and somehow kept finding himself on the field all the time. Like it was like
I was you just brought a bad part of my life back into
I'm sorry. We can't put the genie back in the bottle now, unfortunately. It's kind of like
I'm sure Will Allen's a nice guy and everything, but I hated the Will Allen days because I just felt like they could do so much better than him. He was solid back there, but he just when you went from I know this isn't fair, but you went from Paul Amalu to him basically. And there was no excitement in the secondary. Like, those were dark days, man. That was Will Allen, Will Gay, Blake. Like, that was dark times when Will Allen was the starter. And you're right. There's still some names they can bring in that would be solid starters. We all just have our hearts on the Honey Badger or Terrell Edmonds. After that, there's like 3, maybe 4 guys they could still sign that would be solid starters. They would need to draft, though, to feel better about that spot because Trey Norwood, who had a really good year last year for a 7th-round pick, he's more of a free than a strong. I know that you can move around a little bit, but he's more of a free than a strong. So they don't really have anybody at that position right now.
Yeah, and that's what I was just looking up. I'm like, who else is still around? Like, Kareem Jackson's 34 years old. Keanu Neal, yeah, you brought him up, and he's kind of a versatile guy. That's where I was wondering. Somebody floated this across my Twitter. What if they were able to get the Badger and Terrell Edmonds? And it's like you would think though that they would have to. One of them's taking like a demotion with playing time, so to speak. And what are you going to invest financially in order to do that? But you could use one of them maybe in the nickel or as like a dime backer. And I think they sniffed around like that with at least Malik Hooker last year. They were thinking this. Arthur Millette was a safety, so Keanu Neal might be somebody that they got some. And I'm going to say Carl Joseph too. I'm going to throw that in there, even though he didn't really get out there.
You're right. You're right.
that's kind of, I think, where their mindset is what they want to do with the defense. Keanu Neal might fit that bill. It's just a matter of how much you're going to pay him, and he has a lot of injury history and stuff like that. Jabril Peppers, we mentioned on one of the previous shows, and he's visiting with the Patriots now. Yeah, and Peppers is still young, but you got like Tayshaun Gibson. He's like 32. So I know we said about the age thing, but we're also talking about elite talent versus okay talent. And, 32 for somebody that's okay, that's not really the way I want to go. We saw this happen with Morgan Burnett. Morgan Burnett was probably 29, 30 at the time they signed him too. Probably another outlier. And so where were we at? We were talking about some free agents. Well, we're going to finish off. I think the only spot we did miss, maybe, we talked about potential wide receivers. We talked about secondary here with that hole at strong safety, but some depth with the edge rushers, and we kind of were starting to touch on that. You were talking with the defensive line, and Trey Flowers gets thrown in there, and he's got a big contract that he's not coming into the Steelers to be Melvin Ingram. We'll put it that way. And Melvin Ingram didn't want to be Melvin Ingram in that place last season. So
he did the Steelers no favors advertising for us with what happened last year. I think there's going to be some veterans that look at us with a side eye now, being like, well, I don't want to go there because Ingram was promised this, and then this is what happened to him. So
he got enough playing time. It was just kind of like, hey, you big dummy. They got a young guy they drafted, and you got a defensive player of the year. Like, who are you playing over? And what happened was both those guys got healthy because at the beginning of the year, Watt wasn't he got hurt, and I think he missed part of or most of the Raiders game. He missed the whole Bengals game that was at home, weeks 3 and 4 or 2 and 3 or whatever, right at the beginning of the season. And then all of a sudden, like, the carpet got pulled out from under him by the time you got to that Seahawks game in primetime. And that's where Highsmith just shot out of a cannon. And they're like, no, we're going with Highsmith. And they probably sat him down. And, like, I could see the Steelers being stand-up like this. They realize the guy's near the end of his career. They've already had to handle a James Harrison situation in the past. And they're saying, hey, look, this is the way we're going. And then, he threw his hissy fit and left. But he got a lot of play. They were using all three of them at one point in different schemes and packages. We saw that against Buffalo in week 1. But I digress. I still want to see, there isn't a whole lot out there for the edge rusher market. I want to see Taco Charlton maybe come back. I thought he's earned at least being a depth or rotational guy. We're talking about somebody that can play 15, 20 snaps on either side of the ball.
They've got their starters, so I'm sure someone's going to hear that you saying Taco, and they're going to roll their eyes or turn the podcast off, even though we're almost done. So we got the listener anyway. Taco Charlton, I agree. Yeah, he impressed me coming in and humbling himself, and he runs to the ball. He gets off the ball quick. I was impressed with Taco's short time here. He had a helping hand in 2 turnovers. I think the fumble, Jarvis Landry, speaking of him, he fumbled in the Browns game, and it was Joe Schobert and him combining on that hit that got it out. And he tipped the ball late in the year that someone intercepted. It's too long ago now that I can't really remember, but he started getting his hands up a lot, and the Steelers love that in their D linemen. So I would like Taco to come back too. He'd be a nice re-signing.
Absolutely. I cannot disagree with any of what you said. He got like a half sack, but he came in November. And he came into the practice squad initially, and then when the Ingram situation manifested fully and they were rid of him, that's when he came on the roster. So the guy played like about a third of the season, and he has to jump in, and he's a former first-round pick. So, I mean, he definitely has this is classic like Mike Tomlin type stuff. Mm-hmm. You find guys that were like former high picks, like a Taco Charlton, like an Anthony Miller, and then they end up becoming role players. And we've seen it happen with Tyson Alualu. We've seen it happen. Of course, Joe Hayden was still a top-of-the-line talent when he was at it. But, just to talk about all those first-round picks that they had all over the place when that was the storyline a few years ago.
Mike Mitchell even was a former second-round pick when they brought him in way back when. And then people have their opinions about Mitchell, but that's another example of a former highly drafted pick that the Steelers had tabs on for a long time and then brought him in here to have moderate success.
Yeah, Mitchell was a little bit fish out of water. I don't fault him necessarily. I think it was just more or less like we were saying, Will Allen and stuff like that. He didn't have necessarily the best go of it. He comes in 2014, and he was a pretty big free agent signing, like a 4-year, $30-some million deal. And Polamalu was still playing there, and I think their game was a little too closely aligned to one another for him to be playing free safety. I thought he was always more of a box guy myself, but.
Yeah, it was weird that his position designation was free safety because he definitely played like a strong. And Mitchell's style of play just became extinct before his very own eyes. If we would have got him in the early 2000s, he would have been a hero here. But because he got flagged a lot for the way he would hit, and so I understand why fans really grew sour on Mike Mitchell. I was just agreeing that it is of Tomlin and Colbert's style to keep tabs on these highly drafted guys they like and then try to bring them in here to continue their careers.
Well, we've got to close out the show. We haven't talked enough about that, and I think it's because he wasn't the first one out the gates. You got the Trubisky, obviously another one that fits this bill, highly drafted, somebody you bring in.
There you go.
James Daniel was a big fit, a big free agent find. But we haven't talked enough about Miles Jack. And before we were talking a ton, but we were talking a ton about Bobby Wagner, and then to go see that maybe he's sniffing around playing in Baltimore, just like Justin Houston was last year, and you're just like Eric Weddle before that, and it's just like, just go away, stop, Yeah.
They do it all the time. They always get these like veteran, like future Hall of Famers.
Elvis Dumerville, there's another one.
I know. I really hope he doesn't go there. I'm happy we got Miles Jack. Very happy. I think it's almost funny because I think the fashion in which he was released and then picked up so fast, he didn't really benefit from he didn't really maximize his value, which is great for us. We got him cheap, but it's almost like people didn't forget we signed him, but he was released and signed so fast that it kind of gets almost swept under the rug as just another addition by the Steelers. But he's basically a headliner for this free agent crop. Him and James Daniels, they're going to be starters, hopefully for a long time, still at the top of their game. I like a lot about Miles Jack. And you know me, I'm a big, this guy has the right attitude. Miles Jack seems like super fired up to be here in Pittsburgh. And I think it's only going to help the defense and Devin Bush.
Oh, yeah. And I think Jack even more is a guy that's definitely can play three downs also. So even when we're talking about potential dime backers or whatever, this guy, I mean, he was one of the players where we were like, why is this guy falling? Mm-hmm. How many drafts ago was that? Was that 2018, 2017, something like that? I'm trying to remember where he got snagged there. I'm going to find it, of course, because it's going to drive me absolutely crazy. But
I want to say Edmonds year, 2018 maybe, I think.
It's possible, and then you find out he had like a no, not Myles Garrett. I don't care about that clown. Clicked on the wrong one.
He had a problem with his knee. Didn't he? Something at the combine.
Yes, it was the knee. It was 2016.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. 36th overall. He was right outside of the first round. And I remember I was like, oh, can he fall here? Can he fall? And it was like, man, he's got to go past. He's got a juggernaut of teams that are going to take a chance on him, maybe. And, of course, Jacksonville did.
Once he got past us, I thought, like, oh, man, he must really have a serious issue because, he was supposed to be a consensus top 10 pick. And then as he was sliding to us, a lot of Steeler fans were like, holy crap, we might get Miles Jack. And once he got past us, I was like, oh, shoot, he must really be hurt. But the Jaguars took him early in the second, and he's been nothing but consistent for them his whole career. They broke him off a huge contract because of what he was able to show during his rookie time. And I don't think they cut him or released him because he's not good anymore. I think they're just trying to turn over an entirely new, different leaf. And he was a really expensive player for them, And
everyone's going to talk about, well, gee, why did everybody miss on this guy or whatever? I like to go back and look at some of these drafts. And 2016, that's the Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Joey Bosa, Ezekiel Elliott, Jalen Ramsey, Ronnie Stanley, DeForest Buckner, Jack Conklin, Leonard Floyd. A lot of these guys not with their original teams, by the way. Eli Apple, 10th overall. Vernon Hargraves, Sheldon Rankins, Laramie Tunsil, Carl Joseph, Corey Coleman to the Browns at 15. And it's 2016. This is interesting. So a lot of these players were past the lifetime of being in the NFL, right? Taylor Decker, Keanu Neal, Ryan Kelly, Shaq Lawson, Deron Lee, Will Fuller, Josh Doxson, Laquan Treadwell, William Jackson III, Artie Burns, Paxton Lynch.
Okay, that's when he went. Okay, right after.
Yeah, right after, and everybody lost their collective minds over it, and he would have never played. And if he would have sucked. Kenny Clark, Joshua Garnett, Robert Kemdici, Vernon Butler, Jermaine Afidi, Manuel Ogba, Kevin Dodd, Jalen Smith, Hunter Henry, and then Miles Jack, which is crazy. And then you look just a little bit more into the second round. I got to stick with this. It's like a who's who and who isn't. Chris Jones, Xavier Howard. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. These are second round picks. What did everybody miss in the first round? Sterling Shepard, Reggie Ragland, Kamale Correa, Austin Johnson, Jihad Ward, Derrick Henry, Ashawn Robinson, Michael Thomas of the Saints, 40, at 47. Wow. Jason Spriggs, Jerron Reed, Nick Martin, and let's finish this off with these guys. Christian Hackenberg.
Dude, I forgot entirely.
51 overall to the Jets. Christian Hackenberg, formerly of Penn State, which is wow. Deion Jones, Sua Cravens. Remember Sua Cravens?
I do. I like Sua, yeah.
Mackenzie Alexander, Tyler Boyd, Cody Whitehair, TJ Green, and then the Steelers get Sean Davis before they finish out this draft with Roberto Aguayo, a kicker to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 59, Cyrus Jones to the Patriots, and then Von Bell, James Bradbury, and Adam Gotsis, a defensive tackle with the Broncos. And man, you could keep going because the third round starts with Kevin Byard and Carl Nassib. I mean, it's just some interest. Yannick Ngakoue. You know, it just shows you it's a crapshoot. Nothing is guaranteed depending on where it goes, what position, if the guy's like the fifth or whatever off the board. So I hate discounting anybody, but man, Christian Hackenberg, I mean, it's just like, hey, you could get this guy in the second round, although I don't think anybody was putting him there except for the Jets. Like, that was maybe one of the classic draft day reaches. But yeah, Miles Jack had a whole lot of commotion about his knee, and he falls back there, and I think in the pack that he's in there, that's some good company. And there's no reason to believe. Well, the thing is, everybody forgets. It's like he's been buried in Jacksonville for however many years. He's like a prisoner that just wants to escape and be free. And so as soon as the Steelers come knocking, and just like I was talking with Derek on Friday, it's like the opportunity to play for Andy Reid, which could be Juju's thing too, Mike Tomlin, Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, that means a lot. Like, you know, somebody else comes knocking at the door, and it's like, okay, maybe Zach Taylor might be able to convince some people. They just played, and the Bengals were in the Super Bowl. That'll hold some weight. And what's his face over with the Rams? You know, there's some stuff like that, but then there's some other ones where it's just like, are you gonna be able to get anybody to go to the Giants unless you're paying them a nice sum? So money goes into that as far as opportunity, and opportunity sometimes is who you play for, the name on the front of the jersey, not just the name on the back, the coaching, the organization, everything else. So Miles Jack, I might be getting one of those jerseys. I got to see what number he's going to pull out here. Is he going to wear something in the 50s? We talked about this too. Derek Joseph Watt, or whatever his name is, DJ Watt, currently has 44. Is there a jersey swap going to go on there? Can Jack's got the money, and Derek Watt is a fullback. He hasn't earned quite as much money, so he might be able to throw a little, the greenbacks his way and persuade him. So you're on this. This is your thing all the time. The jersey number, roster, the roster watch, whatever you want to say. So, and
dude,
then we'll buy it.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. Watt was 34 in Wisconsin, and if Edmonds leaves, 34 is open, so he could switch to 34 and then give Jack 44. That's how my mind works right away. I was like, oh, yeah, it's possible for sure, and here's why.
You're pumping your gas with like numbers like 39. Well, that's Minkah, and you need somebody next to Minkah. So that's the way your mind works. And then Neil Coolong, I don't know if you saw that, but he was like, we're Chase Claypool minutes until like, lunchtime or whatever. Does your brain work like that too? Like, he was bringing that out the other day, and I'm like, man, screw both of you guys. You got like all these numbers and jersey numbers in my head. So, hey, Zach, we'll call it a day here. I think I'm gonna wrap up the show. We I don't think we went too long. We're almost in the same ballpark. We're in that neighborhood, but we were all thinking before we were on this, what can we talk about? What can we do? And credit this man right here to my side. He came up with a bullet list. I'm like, whoa, I don't know. But when you have so much to talk about, we don't want to gloss over or miss any, and we filled in a few of the blanks. Try and be careful of the noise that's out there, because I don't know, that honey badger thing. What's Colbert going to say? Yes, we're very much so interested in him, and then the Raiders go out. Raiders are like, oh man, well, we got to offer him a better deal so he doesn't go to Pittsburgh. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's not going to do that. So probably draft a quarterback. Probably not sign this guy. Probably add here. Probably not add here. Oh, geez, oh man, it drives me crazy, and there'll be no end to it until we get past the draft. So thanks for joining me, and taking some time out of your day, man. You're becoming a regular here. We're giving the people what they want.
You're welcome, man, and thank you. Yeah, we are giving the people what they want. I look forward to this now every week. It's our third show, third time's a charm, hopefully. Not that the other shows have been bad, but yeah, it's been a great time.
Here he goes with the numbers again. He's like Miss Cleo.
It's like OCD for me now. It's a thing. It started off just as trying to put good vibes into the world. Now it's OCD. I have to stir my coffee 18 times for Deontay. If I'm filling a diffuser up, I got to do 20 drops for Cam Sutton. That's a very real thing and a very real curse that I live with every day of my life. I've chosen to bear this cross. It's no problem.
Do you think the big hang up here, I think, is 32, because we said that with Franco Harris and Tyrann Mathieu. So, but hey,
I still use 32 because that's the thing. It's still technically his number, and it's a Steeler great number. So I'll still use 32 for certain things. And thank you for letting me help. I'm starting to learn a big part of this is making sure that you have stuff to talk about and to cover. And we're both so passionate about the Steelers that you give us a couple bullet points and we're going to talk for over an hour.
No, we're going to talk about coffee.
Yeah, coffee.
Just a quick story too about the coffee. This is the 2%er story. So I found out this morning. I've been buying my creamer from Aldi now. I found an Italian sweet cream that I really like. I was getting tired of paying $4 or so for the Dunkin' Donuts, whatever. Although I still really like it, the double cream or whatever. But I can talk to you about this because Brian doesn't care. And most of the people listening are already gone. The other 98% don't care anyways. So there's this one cashier there that's just give me everything on here, and she just throws things in the carts, and I have to carefully make sure you put the creamer up front because it's a heavier item. You don't want it back by bread or crackers or something that's going to get crushed, because she just doesn't care. Just everything sweeps into the cart. Well, she swept my creamer in with the lady in front of me, and I'm bagging everything, and I'm like, where's my creamer? I don't have my creamer. So I go back, I run back to the back of the store. I got to get back in line because it's busy. And I accidentally grabbed hazelnut instead of the Italian sweet cream, which is funny because then the lady ends up coming back in with the creamer. And was this yours? Do you want this one? I'm like, no, I just grabbed another one off the shelf, and not realizing I hate hazelnut. So I'm really annoyed by that. So that's one thing. The other thing was the Joy of 6 over behind your head. Was that there before? Was that new?
Yeah.
That one was there.
There, I was just more like this.
Ah, okay. So 6. You do know that 3 times 2 is 6, and 32 is Tyrann Mathieu's number. Steelers have 6 Super Bowls. Let's start putting the puzzle pieces together.
You're not making sense. You're not making sense.
All right, my friend. We're going to put a bow on the show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more silly stories. One of these days, that's all we're going to do, and we're going to see if anyone actually listens to it.
We should, man. We always, our third show, but every single time we've done this so far, we always end up going on and expanding on every topic so much. That just shows me that we're a good match, bro.
Well, you know what? It's not like you're new here to the listeners and the viewers, but you're not new to Steel City Underground. You've been around for years, man. It's so we always have joked and always come up with crazy stuff like this. And we'll see. You know what's going to end up happening, though? Somebody's going to be recommended this on YouTube. And they're going to be like, oh, these guys don't even talk about football. And it's just go away. You know what? You spend your time. You're so angry that you took 3 minutes out of your day. I'm sorry you can't have your time back. Neither can I. So
sorry that we're human beings. And we love football. I love the Steelers more than anything in my life that isn't another human being. but there's more to talk about. There's more stuff to cover. It's having a conversation is what it is.
We won't get into this in this show because this will be another 10 minutes. But one of the fantasy football programs I was listening to in the fall, at night, in the evening I was driving. I might have been back from one of the Steelers games or something or something related. And he was talking about McDonald's breakfast food and their favorite breakfast food. Then a week later, they started talking about chicken nuggets. And I'm just like, and I know me and you, we got the McDonald's connection too, but that'll be for next time. And until that time, my name's Joe. His name's Zach. And I'm tripping over my words because now I want to talk about McDonald's. Until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.